Okay, so our brushes. Brushes allow us to draw, paint, and design, and sketch out our thumbnails within Photoshop. So to access our brushes, if you tap B, that is the hotkey, or you can go over to the icon here to the left for the brush tool. So if I click and just start to drag, you'll notice that I have a brush. Whether you're using a mouse or a stylus, you can use either or. If you notice with my mouse, I'm using my mouse currently, there's zero flare, pressure sensitivity, or fall off of the brush. When I use my tablet, we get a lot more options in terms of fall off and how much our pressure is adjusting our brush. Regardless of what it is you're using, let's go ahead and create a new layer. B is the brush options. Okay. B. E will be our eraser, or if you notice the icon to the left here, this is our eraser icon, brush icon, eraser icon. Now if I click and start to erase this drawing here, I can erase. I go back to my brush. To adjust my size of the brush, you can use the bracket icons to scale up and scale down your brush. So if I scale down, it goes lower. If I scale up, it goes bigger. And this works for both the brush and the eraser. So I scale up my eraser, or scale down my eraser. Now, if you don't want to use the hotkeys to adjust these, if I press B again, you'll notice on the top bar, I have my menu options for both my brush and for my eraser. If I go to my brush and I tap this icon here, I'm able to select different types of brushes, different types of textures within each brushes, hard brushes, soft brushes, and just a massive assortment of brushes. You also notice that the size is adjustable here. So I can either adjust my size with this slider here, or with my keyboard. The hardness of a brush is essentially the edges of the brush. You notice that my brush gets softer when I lower, more of like an airbrushy feel when I lower the hardness of the brush. Now when I raise up the hardness, it becomes chiseled and just a very clean edge line. If you're using a tablet, be sure to turn on this opacity functionality here. If you notice, this icon here will allow me to control my pressure sensitivity for the opacity. So without it, if I have a stylus on, it's just one full opacity. So no matter how hard or soft I press, it becomes fully opaque. Whereas if I was to have a line with that turned on, I'm able to control, depending on how hard I press, how soft and hard my line becomes, which is really nice when you're sketching something very quick and loose, because being able to control that opacity is huge. Opacity as well of the brush is at 100, so you can lower that opacity so that it only ever draws at 45% of the opacity. Keep in mind though, you're gonna have to put more strokes down to get a fuller color. So more strokes in order to go full opaque on the image. And you can also control the eraser with the same functionality. I can adjust my hardness or softness, I can adjust my size, and I can have pressure sensitivity on my eraser as well. Again, you can access the color from either here on the far right, or with this color swatch box to the left. Put up my opacity, and boom. So before we move on from the brushes, I also want to show you some quick color options to fill things, because I think it's important and I use it extremely often. So one way to fill a layer, and by filling a layer I just mean like completely filling something, whether it be a selection, which we'll go over and cover soon in the next lecture, or just an entire layer. When you lock it here, you're able to fill it with one solid layer. Instead of me coming in here and painting it all by hand, I can quickly fill this with a hotkey or with a tool. So the hotkey is Alt Backspace and Control Backspace. Oh, my Control Backspace is filled to white, so it looks like I erased it. But if you notice, on our options here, we have the foreground and background color. If I tap X, it will allow me to switch those. So currently my background is set to white, so if I tap X and then change that color to say red, now that becomes red, and my foreground is red, my background is blue. So as I swap to and from those, if I tap Alt backspace, it does the topmost, Control backspace does the bottommost color. So if I tap X, now Alt backspace is red, and Control backspace is blue. So keep that in mind because I'm constantly filling things, whether it be a whole layer or just specific color. It's a quick way to add color to the whole image, so that say you're designing with multiple colors and you just want to fill it all to add unison to the piece, just quickly Control backspace and Alt backspace to fill. Okay, so with the brushes covered, we're going to go ahead and move on to the selections within Photoshop.